a new kind of YouTube channel where we set off on a paranormal adventure.
I've had about, I would say, 3 major paranormal experiences in my life. One as a child.
Real people.
So I actually have like 2 experiences. One is secondhand and one is firsthand.
Sharing
your ghost story. All right.
real experiences.
So, Dave, how long have you been doing paranormal investigations?
So join us in questioning the weird.
Hi, Bob Trzeciak here. Just a little bit about me, who I am, what I do. A long interest in the paranormal. Gosh, it started way back, for me, I like to say 100 years ago. And actually, it was my brother Ray who really got me started in paranormal. And then Ray sort of got out of it, and then I kind of stuck with it and kept up with it. And then there were maybe a year or 2 here or there where I sort of faded away from it too, and then got back into it, and then really went gung-ho into the paranormal. Lifelong interest in that. Also too into palmistry, just about everything supernatural and occult related and all that, always an interest in it. Palmistry is something that I really started doing, I'd say maybe 10, maybe 12 years ago. Started really getting more and more into the palmistry of it, and when I actually started doing it, just like I started with the paranormal, I didn't think there was anybody else doing it. I thought it was just something that I was interested in, and I was doing it for myself and that. And then I found out I was wrong about that there are other people interested in fortune telling and soothsaying and ghost hunting and all this stuff, because, way back in the day, there weren't a lot of people doing this, and way back we didn't have the internet, and we didn't have a way to connect with other people, so it was a little tougher to do. But yeah, by and large, that's kind of it. That's kind of what got me into it. I love going down to New Orleans. And there was a reader down in New Orleans that actually gave like a session, like an hour session, a little palmistry tutorial. And so I said, okay, one time when I go down to New Orleans, I'm going to sign up for it. I'll take that tutorial and I'll see where that leads. And I did. And I signed up for it, and I just hit it off with the gentleman, and we kind of clicked, and I spent like the whole afternoon with him, and he gave me some pointers and tips and things, and I was talking to him and doing that, and he sort of encouraged me. He says, you're kind of good at what you're doing, you should maybe doing it a little more than you're doing it. So that kind of gave me the encouragement, and then I thought, well, I was wrong, because then I found out that doing it for people are interested in it, and there is a big interest in it, and yeah. So just started doing it more and more and more, and I found out it was something that I liked and that people really enjoyed. And to me, that's what it was about. If I felt it was something that people didn't really like, if there was like a dark side to it or something negative about it, I wouldn't do it. But it's a nice thing. It's a positive thing, and people enjoy it, and I enjoy it, and that's what life is supposed to be about.
Palm reading, is it supernatural, or is it organic, or how would you describe being able to palm read?
Yeah,
that way.
Yeah, supernatural, I don't know if I would really consider palmistry something supernatural, although you could sort of tie all the occult sciences into the supernatural. Any sort of soothsaying, palmistry, tarot reading, any sort of fortune card, any kind of divining you can tie into it. Palmistry actually is a science. It's actually called chiromancy, spelled C-H-I-R-O-M-A-N-C-Y. I think I did that right. And it's the art of reading palms and the lines in the hand. And it's an old science. It goes way back. The origins of palmistry, if you look something up on palmistry or whatever, they'll show the origins of it as starting in India. For some reason, people seem to think it began in India, but I've actually traced it back much further than that, back to Babylon and ancient Egypt. And it was done quite a lot by the Egyptians. The Egyptians studied it a lot, and I could see them be very much interested in something like this, because the Egyptians had an interest in all the sciences and all the arts, and a great deal of their science and their medicine and their what they did had to do with magic and magical things. So I could see this would be something that they would be interested in doing. Every pharaoh had a reader that would read for him, would be able to divine things and tell fortunes. And really, when I started looking fortune telling up in history, all throughout history, every Caesar in Rome, every pharaoh in Egypt, every Alexander the Great, every great ruler had somebody around that did divining and did fortune telling. And it amazed me at how many actual battle campaigns that changed the course of world history were done because some soothsayer told the ruler that this is what you need to do or what you shouldn't do.
Now, Bob, would you say there's a hierarchy of palm reading? Are there tiers, or is there like a organization, or is it just something that anybody can learn?
It's something that anyone can learn. You can be taught to do palmistry. It's not like now some people like with being a medium, a spirit medium, actually being able to communicate with the beyond and with people from the beyond. That I think is something that you either have or you don't. Although there are people that claim they can teach a mediumship. I don't know. It's just a personal belief. I think that's something you have the gift or you don't. Palmistry is something that you can learn. You can be taught it. Some people maybe just are a little better at it or pick it up easier. Like with anything, some people just find that's their forte in life. They can pick it up a little easier. They can do that. Some people maybe theirs would be card reading or some other way of divining. But yeah, definitely palmistry is something that you can learn. You can be taught. And I do tutorials too, where I give people the little basic of palmistry, where you learn like maybe some of the major lines, what they mean, a little bit about it, just so people have a little bit better understanding of it. I think most people's experience with palmistry, if they even have an experience with it, is something they consider like a gypsy in a tea room, sitting there and reading tea leaves out of the cup or doing a palm reading like that. But there's a little more to it than that. It's a little more of a science, a little more to it.
Now, Bob, what is the most precise reading you ever have gotten off somebody?
Oh, you mean the most accurate reading?
Most accurate, yes.
Palmistry does have a pretty good accuracy to it, although like with anything, there are times you get it wrong, and I get it wrong too. I'm not, 100% all the time. Sometimes you will get some things wrong. I've had a couple of things, a couple of readings that really sometimes almost floored me. One were actual a name, which is something really doesn't come through in palmistry. That would be something maybe a little more clairvoyant, but where I've actually gotten a few names that have come through on people and the names wound up meaning something. And then I've actually had instances like where I've told someone, well, you have 3 siblings or 4 siblings. And then they say, no, you're wrong on that. There's only 2 of us or whatever. And I say, no, it looks like there's definitely 3. I don't know, has one passed on or something? And then later on, I was contacted by a person. A person said, Bob, you were right. What you told me in the reading, there were 3. We did have one that we lost, but my sister, my other sibling, reminded me that I was too young to remember. So it's kind of nice when they come back and tell you that, because sometimes you kind of see it there, but they're telling you no, and you're kind of seeing it the other way. I did also have a reading one time, which kind of floored me too, because I was looking at the man's palm and looking at it, and the man was actually connected with a murder. Yeah, and I saw that. I says he was actually connected with a murder, and that was kind of an odd thing, and I really didn't know how to say there, even if I should go with it. And all I basically did was just say, well, you're connected with the legal matter, some sort of a legal matter that you seem to be running away from, that you're going to need to take care of and get put behind you. And I could tell just by the expressions on the man's face that, yeah, I was kind of hitting the nail on the head on that one. So palmistry does have a good accuracy to it, and sometimes it does surprise me, which is a good part of why I enjoy doing it.
Looked at somebody's palm and then decided not to read it, and if so, was there a reason why?
No, I've never actually had that happen where I decided not, where I looked at someone's hand and said, no, I can't read you, I wouldn't want to read you. That would be an extremely, extremely negative experience. And no, I've never, honestly, out of the, I was going to say hundreds, but I've probably done more than hundreds, especially during the October season. I do more than hundreds. I probably do 1,000 of them then alone. But no, I've never actually had that. Some readings, not necessarily so much doing the reading, but some people have come up. And I've had some folks that have come up and they've been maybe a little misguided. There was one young man in particular that I could tell was a little disturbed. And this was about 1:30 in the morning when we're kind of getting ready to fold things up for the night. And this young man came up and okay, fine, I'll do the reading for you. And I could see the young man was a little disturbed in that. I did a reading for him, and he told me, he says, I was very happy with the reading you did. I liked the way you did this. And he says, I'm seeing another clairvoyant now that's been doing readings for me, and not necessarily, she wasn't doing palm readings. I don't exactly know what she was doing, what her medium was that she was working with, but he said she actually took me to a cemetery, and we went to the cemetery, and she went to the grave, and she took some dirt from the grave, and she put the dirt in my hand, and she told me, this is you, this is what your life is nothing, you're worth this dirt that I just picked up. And I could tell he kind of had tears in his eyes when he was telling me this, and I told him, I says, well, that's sort of a negative thing for someone to say to you. And I says, I don't know how long you've been going to see this person, but maybe you might want to maybe consider seeing someone else, because I don't know if this person is really giving you the right advice. And he says, yeah, I felt that for a long time. I'm glad you have told me that. He says, I've had other people tell me that too, but I wasn't taking their advice. And I says, well, don't do it solely on what I'm telling you, but I says, I don't think that's the right person that you want to see. So if somebody's telling you something negative that way, I don't know if that's someone that you would like to continue seeing.
Do you have any advice for anybody that wants to get into palm reading, like a good resource for them to start off?
Oh, yes, by all means, yes. A good resource, a way to get started with it. Basically, look at your own hand. That's what I started doing. I started studying my own hand. I looked at the lines. I noticed some of the lines did change. Some lines become more enhanced. Some become less enhanced. And the lines in your hand do change as situations. Some of them do. Some stay the same because some things stay the same. But as situations in your life change and your attitude and your feelings and things change, so do the lines in your hand. They change also too. But start looking at that, studying that, and then there are many good. But when I was doing this, 100 years ago, there was maybe one book on palmistry, and that was it. Now there are many. There are many books out there. There are many tutorials. There are a lot of ways you can learn to do it, and just give it a shot. You never know how good you are at something until you try it. Try it, and then you see that, well, maybe this wasn't for me. I didn't like it, and then sort of move on to something else. But if you find it was something that you did like and something that did kind of catch your eye or catch your fancy, go for it and do it. Yeah. Many good books out there. They also have, I haven't seen any of them, but I'm sure they have some YouTube video for everything out there. So I'm sure there are some YouTube videos on palmistry and chiromancy out there and that. But yeah, it's a lot more easier to learn now than it was in the past. Like I said, I myself will do some beginner classes too, where I give people like a little basic on it, where we do a few of the lines just so they have a little bit, more or less just a better understanding of it, so they know a little bit more about what palmistry is. Another thing that people have pointed out to me over time, and it's something I never realized myself, and then when I started thinking about it, it is true, is you don't see that many palm readers. You just don't. You'll see many card readers. You'll see people that do other things, other mediums of divining and fortune telling, but you just don't see a lot of palm readers for whatever reason, and I don't know why that is. Maybe it's something that a lot of people don't like to learn, or maybe they feel it's too complicated to learn, whatever it is, or maybe there just aren't enough tutorials or people out there teaching it, whatever the case may be. But you just don't see a lot of palm readers. You see a lot of other things, and then I started noticing that that there aren't a lot of palm readers out there. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are, but you just don't see that many of them like you do tarot readers or other card readers.
Great, thanks, Bob.
Mm-hmm.
Then let's go ahead and do you mind reading my palm, and we can...
No, absolutely. Come on over. We'll take a look.
So, Bob, you're gonna read my palm and let me know.
Everybody does palmistry a little differently. Some readers that you go to will read both of the hands.
Okay.
Some will look at the left hand as telling you about your past. Right hand will tell you about you, your personality, your characteristics, things going on in your life, things you should know. Some readers like to do men on the right hand, women on the left. If it's a child, they'd like to read children only on the right palm for whatever reason. That's how some people like to do it. Some of the Asian countries around the world, they read the back of the hand.
Oh.
They look at nails, they look at knuckles, they look at these things. They don't even look at this side of the hand. They look at this. So everybody does them a little different. Some readers even do some of the lines differently, head and heart, and some of them are a little different. I like to read everything off the right palm, so that's what I'm going to take a look at. As long as you're getting good reading and you feel comfortable with that, you're getting a nice reading, that's fine. It's a preference on how you like to do it. So we're going to take a look at you, and we're going to see what you got going on. You are a very sharp person. You got a very good head on your shoulders. You're very smart, very intelligent. You did not pursue your education as far as you should have. You didn't go as far as you should have. Something seems like you actually ended it rather abruptly. Like, okay, I went this far with it, and that was it, and I didn't want to go any further, but you were capable of doing that. But for some reason, it gives me the impression here that you sort of walked away from it and said that was enough. That was it. But nonetheless, you're very capable of doing it. You do have some ideas in your head right now and some things you want to do. And there are some ideas in the back burner of your mind. One idea in particular, whatever that is, I do not know. But it's been like in the back burner of your mind for some time. And with that idea, I think you're onto something for yourself. So you might want to give that one a chance. Ooh. You might want to do that. Now, okay, you have a very good heart. You are a very, very good-hearted person. You care a lot about people, and you care about people around you. And whether you realize this or not, things you say, people take note of what you say, because you do have the knack, and I think it's something, I think it just comes out of you, it sort of flows out of you naturally, but you do give good advice, and you do tell people the right thing, and you are a very positive person. I get that just by touching your hand. I can feel it. You can tell a lot just by touching the person's hand, but you're a very positive person. You don't give off any negatives, and that's nice. I like to see that. So that's very good. You're a person too that doesn't like to say no to things. People can ask you for something, you don't have to turn it down. You're there. You're always there to do things for people, and you got to be careful with it, because you do have a couple of people that are using your talents, and they're kind of using you, and you're being taken advantage of. So just be a little cautious with that, and sometimes say no. You've got a very nice, well-defined lifeline. Your life's kind of going in a different direction here. Something happened in your life where it changed. Your life was kind of falling in one path. It was kind of going one way, and something happened that threw you a curve in life, and your life kind of went 90 degrees into another direction. You're going to have another one of these curves come up for yourself too. You're going to have that coming. You've got a very nice family chain. I like to see that. Family very much cares about. Usually when I do this, I have a pointer with me, and I like to point at the lines so you can see head, heart, life, fate line, these kind of things like that. Family chain would be right over here. And you've got a very nice bond in family, and women in your family seem like they're very strong. Friends and acquaintances, and that you have no trouble with that. People seem to take to you very nicely. You've got a good demeanor about you, and people are taken with you, and they like having you around. You're a good person to be around, but you yourself are a very private person. You're very private. People will tell you things, people will ask you things, and tell you things about them, and some people will pour their heart out to you. People you don't even know, or people you first time meet, and that kind of thing. Well, what you do, you sort of meet people. A lot of people that you meet, you come in contact with for the first time. I know how that works because I do that with radio. But with you, people will just like pour their heart out. People you don't even know, and sometimes you're a little taken back by that, and you find that a little odd. But it's just the way you are. People, they have like a confidence in you, something about you. They feel like this is a person I can talk to, and that's a good trait. You make many friends and many people and acquaintances and that, but you're very, very few people you could call a close friend. Very few that you're very close with, but you know many people. And even the close people that you are so-called close with, even them don't know everything there is to know about Leland. Leland has his things, and he keeps his life to himself, and that's okay. This is fine. None of these are bad things. Okay. All right. Let's see what we got going on here. This looks okay for you here. This looks nice. Told you all this. This was all good. Good personality. Wonderful. Let me see while I talk to myself here. Let me look on this side for just a moment here. Yeah, health-wise you seem to be holding ground good. You've got very good color in your nails. Night hours seem to be very good for you. You like the night. And night seems to be, you're productive at night. You seem to be doing things at night, and you do a lot of your good work, and a lot of the best things you've done, especially where your creativity is concerned, seems to be work that you do at night. That seems to work out good for you. Okay. This is good. You don't always get the sleep you need, though. Your sleep, you don't seem to need a lot of sleep. You seem to do well on a few hours. You do okay with that. And some people do. Some people sleep 4 or 5 hours. They do wonderful with it. Other people need 10, 12 hours of sleep. And you seem to function pretty well on just a minimum amount of rest in that. And you do okay with that. Seems like you travel a great deal too. Like you're constantly on the move, going to and fro and going here and there, and you do a lot of getting around. Okay. And you're always obviously for what you do, you're always taking a different path. I was going to say your path is not like set. Like, okay, I work here, I go to work, I go home, this is the place I hang out at, and you kind of follow a path with it. You're doing other things, but that's what you do here. You're kind of meeting different people, going to different places, so anyone would be able to tell you that. So that shouldn't be a big secret for anybody to figure out. Okay, all right. Let's see what else I can tell you here. I think I got you covered. And I think I'll let you go with that. Hope that made some sense to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fascinating.
Good.
So go ahead and tell me what some of these lines are.
When I do a tutorial, like when I'm giving a lesson in this, I kind of give like the basic palm reading. No one is going to go to an hour session and learn everything there is to know about palmistry. A lot of it you pick up as you go too. You'll learn different things about it yourself, and you'll find that. And I'm a person that likes self-learning. I do. But some people, I like to do like a basic thing on it. And when I always start the lesson off, usually it depends on how many people I have in the group, I'll have them work on each other's palms. Like you read their palm, that one, and then switch, and you do the other person's. And the first question I ask everybody is, how many lines can you make out on your hand? And most of the time the answer is 3 or 4. And that's exactly what you should have. You should have 3 or 4, and those are called the major lines. Headline, now some readers read this as the heart, and some literature and things you'll see it as the heart, but some people read it as the head. I like to prefer to read this as the headline and the heart line, and then your lifeline. And then the other line is the fate. Now the fate is sometimes where people say 3, because they'll see these 3 very well defined, and the fate line sometimes isn't always there. Fate line you'll see very faint in younger people. Because younger people, fate line deals a lot with your future, and with younger people, a lot of their future hasn't been lived yet. They haven't married, they haven't had career, they haven't had family, they haven't done this, they haven't, et cetera, et cetera. All those things in life that happen for younger people haven't. So that's why future sometimes is that way with them, or the fate line isn't too well defined. But other lines are defined, and lines do change. They do change a lot. Headline, if you have a nice headline that kind of runs like the length of your palm, pretty much the full length of it, you're a pretty smart person. You're pretty good. Yeah, that's a person that's pretty good head on his shoulders. Sometimes you'll see a person with a very small head line, like the line is very short and it doesn't really run a lot like that. A lot of times that doesn't mean that's a stupid person or a person that's not good, but sometimes that's just a person that can't make their mind up for themselves. They have trouble with that. They just don't do that. They like to listen to other people's advice, and someone has to be there to sort of guide their life. They're incapable of making decisions for themselves. And it's sort of sad, because a lot of times people don't realize their full potential when they're that way. And a lot of times that's what I like to tell people. When I see something like that, I'll tell them, like, well, you've got a lot of potential here and there, but you're not using it to your best of ability. And start trusting some of your feelings and your own voices and your own, inner voices and your own inner thoughts. And, maybe not take so many other people's advice. But some people just don't know how to do that. So you'll see that occasionally. Some folks, too, will have a little fork over here. If I hit a nice pointer, I'd be able to show you this. But if they have a little fork, like at the end of their headline, and that fork indicates a person with artistic ability and creative juices in that. Yours is there, Leland. It's rather faint, but you do have it. Nonetheless, so you are kind of a creative and artistic person. Very much so. Heart line. Same thing too, likewise too, if the person's heart line is very long, very straight, well-defined, good-hearted person, they're a very giving person. Sometimes you'll see the line have a few breaks in it and splits in it, and that indicates just what you would think. The heart's been broken a couple times, either through a loss of a loved one, through loss of a relationship, whatever it may be. Sometimes even with people, career, like they've had a job, a career they've done for 30 years, that's their life, their whole life is that, and all of a sudden that no longer exists, and that leaves a big emptiness in their heart sometimes. Sometimes it's a combination of all things. So you'll see that in the heart line. Sometimes too you'll see a person's heart line where it's not so straight and running down the path. It's sort of curved and kind of goes all over the place in that. And that's a person that's a lot of in emotional triangles. Sometimes they have a hard time in being in relationships with people, have trouble with a romance, have trouble with a relationship, anything permanent. Sometimes those are people that are better off to stay single and not to marry. They're just that type of person. They need to take another course in life. You see that. So you do see different things. Lifeline. Now sometimes you'll see a person with a short lifeline. Sometimes you'll see a long, very long, well-defined lifeline that curves all the way around the mound of Venus here. Now a short lifeline or a long lifeline doesn't mean the person will live a long time or they're going to have a short life. Sometimes I'll say that. I say, oh, you have a short lifeline, and I'll hear like a from somebody. It doesn't mean a short life. It doesn't mean you're dying in 3 days. It just means the quality of your life. Like right now you have a few open ends on life. There are some things here that haven't been fulfilled for you. Either that be a place you're moving to, a career change, there again, romance. Some of these things play, one line ties in with the other. So that could be things that haven't completed your life and done that. And then a lot of times you'll see changes, like everything's kind of mundane for them right now with life, kind of just going through the motions. And then down at the bottom there, they'll have a curve, and that will change their life. Life will go into a different direction for them. That's what you like to see. I like to see people have changes in a positive way and be progressive. I don't like to see people too with the heart line with too much emotions on it. Sometimes you'll see a person, and that usually is indicated by somebody that has their lifeline connected to the heart line. I always like to see when there's a little gap in between the two lines. When you see the two of them connected, that's a person that has a hard time saying no. They just have a hard time saying no, and that person also thinks more with their heart than they do with their head. They know practically they should decide this way, but a lot of times their emotional side gets in and they say okay to this, and 9 out of 10 times what they're doing is more for the other person or other people than they do for themselves. So a lot of times they get taken advantage of, and I like to see that. I like to see people stay good, stay kind, and stay caring, but nonetheless have a good life for themselves too. So sometimes you'll see those things like that, and the lines do change. Your character does change. Your emotions do change. As situations change in life, so do lines in your hand. As your health changes, the whole entire make of your hand, the coloring and everything changes on it. Good health, bad health, those type of things, things that happen to us in life. So you will get that. The family chain, which is this over here, is very nice. Family chain is a nice one because it's just that. It's a chain. It looks like a little chain link thing running there. And if it's pretty good and pretty well defined, like yours is here, indicates a nice bond with family. Like everything, there's a nice balance there. You get along with family. They get along with you. They care about you. You care about them. It's always something nice that we'd like to see. Sometimes you'll see a person with a double line in their family chain, like two chains. And a lot of times that's a person that has step family, or one parent was married, divorced, they've got family biological family from their biological mother and father, and then they also have stepbrothers and step siblings. And sometimes I'll see like a disconnection where they haven't even met up with some of those people yet, and they're surprised to see that. Sometimes too, people are, they say, I always suspected that. I always knew there was other folks out there that I might be related to in that, and now that's kind of reinforcing it for me too. So it's nice when you can kind of see these things, and it sort of helps people along with some of their things in life. The phalanges on your finger, all these little sections. Everybody has 3 sections like this on your fingers. Those are called phalanges, the different sections on your finger. And if you see somebody that's got a lot of vertical lines that kind of run this way, up and down along the fingers, that's a person that's pretty good numbers and figures. They got a good talent for mathematics. I don't have that because I'm horrible at math. I'm actually dyslexic. I mix numbers up. Some people, you see that. Also, too, that indicates a person's got a pretty good head for puzzles and figuring things out. And Leland had that on his, and I like to see that. And then, of course, too, if you see calluses on the hand, that's a very easy one to figure out. I mean, no one needs any special ability to read that. If you see someone's palm, the palm is callous, that's obviously a person that works with their hands and is holding tools and that type of thing. They do that. So some things are a little easier to figure out than others, and some you don't need any special ability. It's amazing, once you start doing it, how many things you see on there. Good coloring in the hand is also a very good indication. If you see someone with a very, very white palm, sometimes that person that's having some health issues and some circulatory problems and some things going on. And then likewise too, if the color of the hand is very vibrant and very red, and that a lot of times that's blood pressure and things that are going on that's causing it to be very red and very vibrant. Also too, that can indicate when you do like the whole reading, you kind of get a better picture. One line ties into that, and you can figure things out a little better with that. But when the hand is very, very red too, sometimes that's just a very, very emotional and fiery, passionate person that you see that. So yeah, different things tell you different things about the person's personality, about their life. So it's nice to see. Okay, so we kind of covered the 4 majors here, and that's just like the basics of palm reading. Everything else seems to stem off of those. Mound of Venus over here, the lunar mound over here. Many times on the lunar mound, it's a little harder to read what's over there, but you can see things on the mound of Venus a lot clearer. Okay. And like I said, some of the Asian countries, they'll look at the back of the person's palm. Now with ladies, sometimes it's difficult to do because women polish like to color their nails. But usually on men, although some men too, some of the goth I see, like with the dark makeup and that, a lot of men start wearing that if they're into that type of thing. They have their nails blackened, and it's nice to see the color. Leland has a very good color in his nails, and his nails have a very good shape to them. No ridges or lines in them, indicating to me a good diet, pretty good. He's pretty good with that, and he's enjoying a pretty good period of health for himself, which is nice to see. I always like to see people experience good health and things. A nice color on that. Some of the redness around the knuckles does indicate a night person. Why this is, I do not know, but that indicates a person that's kind of an active person at night. They like their nights, and they're active about that. Okay, so just a little bit, there's some of the basics on it. Down here by your wrist, this indicates dependencies, like chemical dependency or dependency on alcohol. Sometimes you can see that too, or sometimes a person has a dependency on that. Sometimes it's medical, they're taking different medications. Sometimes it does indicate a substance abuse too, where the person may be abusing alcohol or abusing drugs, that type of thing like that. And you don't like to see that, and sometimes you like to sort of maybe guide them a little away from that. And like I say, anytime you can do this, and it gives a little bit of advice maybe that can help a person. Sometimes people know this about themselves. They know these things about their personality. They know these things, but when they're hearing it from someone else, sometimes it hits home a little more. And usually when it's a stranger like me, somebody they come up to, they don't know who I am or that, and you're doing this for them, sometimes they take it a little more seriously than if they were to hear it as from an actual friend and that. So that's why I like doing palmistry. I enjoy doing it. Like you say, anything that you can do that in some way affects another person's life positively is wonderful. Be it this or being it some other medium, it's a great thing. Okay, all right, that's about all I've got to say there for you, Leland, on that, and that'll be $5. No, I'm kidding.
Well, thanks, Bob, for coming on to Questioning the Weird and reading my palm and telling me things that I didn't even know about myself. Or
sometimes you do, yeah. Sometimes you find it. Yeah, thank you. It was a pleasure. It was fun to do. I enjoyed doing this. It was kind of a nice switch for me, sort of being the interviewed rather than the interviewer. So it was nice. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Do you have anything that you want to plug or tell people about?
Oh gosh, well I've got some stuff coming up. Of course, this episode won't be shown until later. So by the time this is shown, some of the things I'm doing will be already in the past. But for the October season, Midnight Terror, one of the best haunted houses around,
They have a little midway set up there after you get out of their haunt. They do such a good job of that haunt.
And where's what is this?
They're over on 111th Street. They're in what used to be the old Du Bois Fabric building, right across the street. On 111th, there are 3 cemeteries. There's St. Casimir Cemetery, Holy Sepulchre, and Chapel Hill, and they're like right directly across the street from Chapel Hill Cemetery on 111th Street. I don't know the exact number there, but it's in Worth. Not Worth. They're in Oak Lawn. It's an Oak Lawn address, and they're right there. And they run the haunted house for the whole. Actually, start the last week in September, all the way through the first week in November, and I will be there doing palm readings with them the whole season. I've been with them for about 6 or 7 years now, doing that with them, and they're a nice bunch of folks to work with and everything, and they're great, and come out there and get entertained, and they've got a little game section back there where they do axe throwing and escape rooms, and that's where I'm back there doing palm readings. So if you want a palm reading done, I'll be there the whole season doing palm readings. And also too, we're going to do some tours there too, something new we're going to try with Midnight Terror this year. We're going to do some bus tours and things and take people around to some locations and that. I'm not quite sure exactly how that's going to work out, but I'm kind of looking forward to that because I like doing tours. So I'm looking forward to that for the Halloween season. And then I'll be doing some talks at some of the libraries around and that. If you want to find me, just go up on my Facebook page, and I post things on Facebook because people ask me to do it. They say, let us know what you're doing and where you're going to be and that. So it'll be on there where I'll be around.
Great. Well, I appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much. Thank you, Leland. It was a pleasure. Very nice. Thank you. Good job, sir. Like what you do. Yeah, great.